Constantinople, 150 AD. The circus. Maximus roared with the voices of 70,000 people packed into stone seats that stretched up towards the sky. The air was thick with dust, sweat, and anticipation. On the track below, two charioteers prepared for the race that would change their destiny forever. One was driven by gold, the other by passion. Neither knew this would be their last race on Earth, but it wouldn't be their last race together. Maximus Lucius was 28 years old, and by every Roman standard, he had everything a man could want. He owned land that stretched for miles outside the city, slaves who tended his olive groves and vineyards, a villa so grand that senators envied it, with marble columns imported from Greece and floors decorated with intricate mosaics. But what Maximus loved most was his gold. Every night after his servants had gone to bed, he would sit alone in his private chamber and count his coins. Gold Aureus pieces, hundreds of them, thousands even. He'd run his fingers through them, feeling their weight, their coolness. It was never enough. The more he accumulated, the more he wanted, and chariot racing had become his favorite way to get more. For Maximus, racing wasn't about glory, it wasn't about honor or skill or the thrill of competition. It was about the betting houses. Every race was an opportunity. The prizes were substantial, yes, but the real money came from the bets. Maximus would bet enormous sums on himself, knowing that with the finest horses money could buy and equipment other racers could only dream of, victory was almost guaranteed. He'd spent a fortune on his racing operation. His horses were imported from the best breeding farms in North Africa. His chariot was reinforced with iron, lighter and faster than anything his competitors used. Even his racing tunic was expensive, dyed with rare purple from Phoenician snails. Everything Maximus touched turned to gold, or so he thought, but there was one man he couldn't seem to beat consistently, a man who infuriated him more than anyone else in the world, Marco Antonio. Marco was 26 and he had very little by Roman standards. No land, no fortune, no villa filled with gold. He lived in a modest apartment above a bakery near the Forum. The smell of bread woke him every morning. He owned exactly 2 horses, both of which he'd raised from colts, and a chariot he'd built with his own hands, maintaining it meticulously every single day. But Marco had something Maximus didn't. He genuinely loved the sport. For Marco, racing wasn't about money, it was about the speed, the skill, the deep connection he felt with his horses. He would spend hours with them, speaking to them gently, learning their personalities, understanding what they needed. His equipment wasn't fancy, it was functional, reliable. He couldn't afford to replace things often, so he took care of what he had with obsessive attention. And somehow, despite having less of everything, Marco won races. Not all the time, but enough to be dangerous. He was Maximus's greatest rival. Not because he was rich, but because he was genuinely good at what he did. His horses trusted him, his chariot never failed him, and his skill was undeniable. And Maximus absolutely hated him for it. How dare this poor man with cheap equipment and mediocre horses compete with someone like him? How dare Marco win races that Maximus had bet his fortune on? It was insulting. And today, Maximus was going to end it once and for all. The day of the race, the betting houses across Constantinople were overwhelmed with activity. Maximus had bet everything he owned on himself to win. 10,000 gold coins, his villa, even some of his land. The betting house managers had tried to talk him out of it. "This is too much risk, Maximus," one had said. "If you lose..." "I won't lose," Maximus had interrupted, his eyes cold. "Look at Marco's equipment. His horses are tired. He's been racing them for 3 years straight. They're past their prime. Meanwhile, I have fresh horses, the best chariot money can buy, and I'm younger and stronger." The manager had still looked worried, but he'd accepted the bet. Maximus was confident, absolutely certain. Meanwhile, across the circus, Marco stood at the starting line, running his hands along his horses' necks, whispering to them. "It's okay," he murmured. "Just do your best. That's all I ask." He'd bet nothing, because for him, it wasn't about the money. It never had been. The horn sounded. The crowd erupted, and they were off. For 6 laps, Maximus and Marco were neck and neck. Maximus whipped his horses brutally, demanding more speed. More. He could see the finish line in his mind, could already imagine collecting his winnings, watching Marco's humiliation. Marco, beside him, spoke to his horses gently, encouraging them. "Come on, boys, we can do this. Just a little more." The final turn approached. This was it. the moment that would decide everything. Maximus saw his opening, a narrow gap on the inside of the track between Marco's chariot and the stone wall. If he could squeeze through, he'd pull ahead and win. It was risky, very risky. If he miscalculated by even a few inches, they'd collide. But Maximus didn't care. He cut hard to the left. Marco saw it happening. His eyes went wide. He tried to pull his horses to the right to give Maximus space, but it was too late. There wasn't time. Their wheels locked together. The sound was deafening, wood splintering, metal grinding against metal. The crowd's roar turned to gasps, then screams. Maximus felt his chariot lurch violently to the side. He lost his grip on the reins. Everything started spinning. And then he was flying through the air. Time seemed to slow down. He saw the ground rushing up to meet him. And then, impact. Everything went black. When the dust finally settled, two charioteers lay, motionless in the sand. Maximus Lucius and Marco Antonio, both dead from broken necks, both about to discover that death was just the beginning of their story. The crowd fell silent. 70,000 people and not a single voice could be heard. Only the wind blowing across the empty track, carrying away the last moments of two lives that had ended in an instant. For gold and for nothing. Maximus woke up in gray fog. Cold emptiness, silence. "Where are my slaves?" he shouted. "Where is my villa? My gold?" No one answered. He walked for what felt like days, weeks, years. Time didn't exist here. This must be a dream, he kept telling himself. I'll wake up soon. Back in my villa, counting my coins. But he never woke up. Because Maximus didn't understand what had happened. Like most people who die suddenly, he had no idea he was dead. No knowledge of the spiritual world, no preparation. In his mind, he was still alive, still searching for his material possessions. And that ignorance became his prison. In the spiritist book, Psychophonic Instructions, there's a story about a spirit obsessed with gold. Everything he touched in life had turned to gold, but in death, he couldn't touch anything at all. The Midas touch became a curse. Maximus was living that curse, and it would last 50 years. He tried to grab coins on the ground. His hands passed through them like smoke. He screamed for help. No one came. The spirit Emmanuel explains that after death, our thoughts create our reality. Maximus had spent his entire life thinking only about gold and possessions, so his mind created a prison of isolation. No love to sustain him, no charity given to help him now, no faith to guide him, just emptiness. Meanwhile, Marco Antonio had a completely different experience. When he opened his eyes after the crash, gentle light surrounded him, spirits with kind faces. "Where am I?" Marco asked weakly. "You're safe now," a soft voice replied. "But my horses, the race." "Marco," the spirit said gently, "the race is over. You crashed. Look at your hands." Marco looked down. His hands were translucent. "What's happening to me?" The spirit's voice was infinitely compassionate. "What happened is, you died, Marco. I know this is hard to understand, but you're no longer in the physical world." Marco stared. I died? Yes, but you're not alone. We're taking you somewhere safe. It's called the House of Help. Because Marco's mind wasn't obsessed with material things, he could hear them, accept the truth. Within hours of his death, protective spirits rescued him and guided him to safety. 50 years passed for Maximus. 50 years of wandering alone, searching for gold that didn't exist, trapped in a hell of his own making. Until finally, something broke. He fell to his knees and screamed, "I'm sorry. Please, someone, help me." For the first time in 50 years, he wasn't asking for gold, he was asking for mercy. And that made all the difference. Soft golden lights appeared in the fog, spirits who'd been searching for him all this time. "Maximus," a gentle voice said, "we've been calling your name for years. You can finally hear us now. Who are you?" "We're friends. We're here to help." "I'm lost. I can't find my villa, my gold. Nothing makes sense." The spirit looked at him with infinite compassion. "Maximus, what I'm about to tell you will be difficult. The race in Constantinople, the crash, do you remember?" "Yes, but I woke up after..." "No, Maximus, you didn't wake up. What happened is, you died in that crash, 50 years ago. You've been wandering the spiritual plane ever since, unable to let go of your material obsessions." Maximus froze. He looked at his translucent hands, the endless fog. Finally, The truth settled in. He was dead, and he needed help. "Will you come with us?" the spirit asked. Maximus nodded. "Yes, please." Maximus arrived at the House of Help, broken and exhausted. The spirits there didn't judge him. They simply helped him recover. Slowly, over months, his mind cleared. One day, walking through the colony's gardens, he saw a familiar face. "Maximus?" He turned. Marco Antonio stood there, healthy and at peace. "Marco, you're here." "I've been here the whole time. I heard you finally made it." Maximus fell to his knees. "I'm so sorry. The race. It was my fault. I killed us both for nothing." Marco knelt beside him. "I forgave you a long time ago, my friend." Over the following months, something unexpected happened. Maximus and Marco became inseparable, rivals in life, brothers in death. They talked for hours, walked together, learned together, and for the first time, Maximus understood what true wealth felt like. Not gold, friendship. One day, a spiritual mentor named Aurelius sat with them in the gardens. "You've both been here for some time now," he said gently. "Recovering, learning, but eventually you'll need to face something difficult." "What?" Maximus asked. "The reason you ended up here in the first place. Maximus, you spent your entire life obsessed with gold. Marco, you were honorable, but you died young without fulfilling your purpose. Both of you have lessons to learn." Marco looked troubled. "What do we do?" "You return, you reincarnate, you try again." Maximus felt cold fear. "Go back to Earth?" "Yes, but before you go, I need you to understand something crucial. The spirit Emmanuel, speaking through the medium Chico Xavier, teaches about wealth and money. Do you want to know what he says?" Both men nodded. Aurelius's voice became profound. "Emmanuel teaches this. Money is a tool, not a destination. Wealth without love is poverty. Poverty with love is true abundance. Do you understand?" Maximus stared at his hands. "I spent 50 years here alone because I couldn't let go of gold." "Yes, and you'll keep suffering until you learn the truth. Real wealth isn't coins. It's love, charity, faith." "I understand," Maximus said quietly. "Do you? We'll see." The day came. Maximus and Marco stood together, ready to reincarnate, excited, determined. They had a plan. They would be born in the same family, grow up together, and this time they would get it right. They reincarnated and they failed. Twice. First, they were born in Europe in the 1890s. They became soldiers in World War I, best friends in the trenches, showing genuine love and loyalty to each other. They protected each other, shared their rations, kept each other sane in the horror of war. But at 23 years old, a shell landed in their trench. They died instantly. Together, back at the House of Help, they were devastated. "We didn't even have a chance," Maximus said. "We were trying. We showed love. We protected each other." "You did," Aurelius said gently, "but your time was cut short. Sometimes that happens. The important thing is, did you learn anything?" Marco spoke quietly. "We learned what brotherhood feels like." "Then it wasn't a complete failure. Try again." They did. Born in America in the 1950s, grew up in the 60s and 70s. By the 1980s, they were professional powerboat racers. Max Sterling and Tony Marcus. Champions, rich, famous. And immediately, the same patterns emerged. Max became obsessed with winning. Prize money, sponsorships, the best boat, the newest technology. Tony got swept up in it too. The parties, the excess, the materialism, they had everything. Mansions, cars, women, fame, and they were miserable. At 32 and 30 years old, racing in Miami, their boat hit a wave, wrong at over 100 miles per hour. The boat flipped. Both men were thrown into the water, knocked unconscious. They drowned before the rescue team arrived. Back at the House of Help for the third time, unable to meet Aurelius's eyes. 3 lifetimes, Maximus said quietly. 3 chances, 3 failures. Aurelius didn't look angry, just sad, infinitely patient. What happened? The same thing, Marco admitted. We had money again, and it corrupted us again. You keep choosing the same path, Aurelius said. You keep gravitating toward wealth, competition, accumulation. The circumstances change, chariots, powerboats, but the pattern is the same. Maybe it's time to try something completely different. Maximus looked up. Like what? The trial of poverty. Silence. Maximus felt deep fear. What does that mean? You'll be born into circumstances where material wealth is impossible, where you physically cannot chase gold even if you want to, where you'll have to find meaning and purpose in completely different ways. Where? A favela, a hillside slum in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Marco and Maximus looked at each other. Can we do that? Marco asked. I don't know, Aurelius said honestly. That's what we're about to find out. They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Maximus spoke. If we're born into poverty, how will we know we've succeeded? What's the test? Aurelius smiled gently. You'll know. The question is, can you find wealth without money? Can you find purpose without possessions? Can you be rich in spirit when you're poor in material goods? I don't know if I can, Maximus whispered. That, Aurelius said, is exactly why you need to try. More silence. Then Marco reached over and took Maximus's hand. We'll do it together, Marco said, like always. Maximus looked at his friend, his brother, and nodded. Together. Aurelius opened the book of planning. They would be born in Rio de Janeiro, the year 2015, a favela called Morro da Esperança, the Hill of Hope. Their names would be Maximiliano and Marcelo, that would grow up with nothing, and they would have to build everything from love. Are you ready? Aurelius asked. Both men stood. We're ready. Then go. And this time, remember, the richest man isn't the one who has the most. It's the one who gives the most. The light surrounded them, and they were gone. Rio de Janeiro, 2015. It was time to learn the final lesson. Maximiliano Silva and Marcelo Antonio were born 2 months apart in Morro da Esperança, Hill of Hope. Their families had almost nothing. Tin roofs, dirt floors, no running water some days, but they had something Maximus never had in Rome, love. Max and Marco grew up as best friends. They played soccer with balls made of plastic bags. They helped their mothers carry water up the steep hillside. They watched sunsets over Rio, dreaming about their futures. No chariots, no gold, no competition, just childhood, friendship, simple joy. And for the first time in 4 lifetimes, they were genuinely happy. At 28 and 27, Max and Marco started something that would change everything. A community radio station, Radio Morro FM. They built it with donated equipment, an old microphone, a discarded laptop, speakers held together with duct tape. They set up in a tiny storage shed, but it worked. Every morning at 6 a.m., before there were construction jobs, they went on air. Educational programs for kids, religious services on Sundays, messages of hope, community announcements. They didn't get paid, not a cent, but it felt right. The impact was immediate. Families started connecting. Kids learned through their programs. Elderly people called in to share stories. Violence in Morro da Esperança began to drop. Max and Marco would walk through the favela and hear their own voices from every window. One day, a mother stopped Max. You changed my son's life. He listens to your show every morning now instead of hanging with gangs. He's studying. Max felt warmth in his chest. This was it. This was what the mentors meant. True wealth wasn't gold in a vault. It was seeing real lives get better because of what you gave. One evening, Marco was fixing a broken toy car when he said, "You know what we should do? We should have a race." Max froze. That word. Memories from lives he barely remembered. Chariots, speed, death. A race? He said carefully. Yeah, a soapbox derby, Carrinho de Rolima, down the hill, for the kids, for fun. Marco smiled, and Max saw in his eyes that he remembered too, somewhere deep in his soul. Not for money though, not for prizes, just joy, bringing everyone together. And Max understood. This is how we do it right. This is how we race without destroying each other. The whole favela came together. Families built soapbox cars from scrap wood and bicycle wheels. Kids painted them in bright colors. They decorated the street with handmade flags. No betting, no sponsors, no prize money. Just community celebrating together. The day arrived. The race was chaos in the best way. Kids screaming with joy as they flew down the hill. Parents cheering, grandmothers clapping, one car's wheels fell off halfway down. The kid just laughed and ran with it to the finish. No one crashed, no one got hurt. When it was over, no winner was declared, because that wasn't the point. Max and Marco stood at the finish line, watching. Families celebrate. Marco looked at Max. We did it. Yeah, we finally did it. Two souls who'd raced chariots in Rome for gold, now racing soapbox cars in a Brazilian favela for love. And this time, everybody won. That night, after the crowds had gone home and the street had been cleaned up, Max and Marco sat on the roof of their tiny radio station. It was their favorite spot. Up here, above the cramped houses and narrow streets, they could see the entire city of Rio spread out below them. Millions of lights twinkling in the darkness. The ocean in the distance reflecting the moon. The favela was quiet now. Peaceful. Do you ever think about it? Marco asked. Think about what? The past. Other lives. Max was quiet for a moment. Yeah, he said finally. Not clearly. Not like memories. But sometimes I'll see something or feel something and it's like, I've been here before, done this before. Me too. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. I think about gold sometimes, Max admitted, about wanting more, about comparing what I have to what other people have. And then I remember what? How empty that feels, how it never satisfied anything. Marco nodded. I think about the power boats too, he said. Not the boats themselves, but the feeling. We had everything, didn't we? Money, fame, success. And we were miserable, Max said. Yeah, more silence. But here, Max continued, gesturing at the favela around them, at the tiny radio station, at their simple lives. We have nothing. By any normal standard, we're poor. We live in a shack, we work construction, we run a radio station that doesn't pay us a cent. And you've never been happier, Marco finished. Never, Max agreed. Not in any life I can remember. Marco smiled. That's what they tried to teach us. True wealth isn't what you own. It's what you give, who you love, how you serve. It took us 4 lifetimes to figure that out. Better late than never. They laughed, and the sound carried on the night wind down through the streets of Morro da Esperança, where people slept peacefully in their homes, knowing that tomorrow morning they'd wake up to Max and Marco's voices on the radio, connecting them, teaching them, reminding them that they weren't alone. 10 years passed. Radio Morro FM grew beyond anything Max and Marco had imagined. They trained dozens of young people from the community to run programs. Kids who'd learned from their educational broadcasts now taught others. Teenagers created music shows. Elderly people hosted storytelling hours. The station became more than just a radio station. It became the heart of the community, a hub for education, culture, connection, and hope. The Soapbox race became an annual tradition. Every year, more kids participated, more families got involved. It became the event everyone looked forward to, a celebration of a formed community and joy that brought everyone together. And the violence, the gang recruitment, the isolation, violence in Morro da Esperança dropped by 40% over the decade. Not because of increased police presence, not because of government intervention, but because people knew each other now, cared about each other, looked out for each other's kids. Max and Marco never married. They lived simple lives, just the two of them, working construction during the day, running the radio station at night, serving their community however they could. People sometimes asked questions, wondered about their relationship, made assumptions, but Max and Marco never felt the need to explain or label anything. Their bond went deeper than romance, deeper than friendship, even 4 lifetimes of connection, rivalry, partnership, learning, brotherhood. They were souls who'd chosen each other, lifetime after lifetime, failing together, learning together, until they finally got it right. They didn't need labels for that. They had something rarer and more precious, a connection that transcended time, death, and circumstance. On their last broadcast before retiring, 30 years after they'd started, Max and Marco sat together in front of the microphones one final time. Their hair was gray now, their bodies tired from decades of construction work and late nights at the station. But their eyes were bright, their hearts full. Max spoke into the microphone. We started the station with nothing. Broken equipment, no money, no training, just love for this community and a belief that we could make a difference. Marco added, and we learned something over these 30 years, something important. You don't need gold to be rich, you don't need a mansion or expensive things. You just need purpose. You need to give. You need to serve. Radio Moro FM will continue, Max said. The young people we've trained will take over, and it'll be better than it ever was with us because they have the energy and ideas we don't anymore. Thank you, Marco said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for letting us serve you. Thank you for being our community, our family. They signed off for the final time. And as they walked home through the favela they'd served for 3 decades, every window was lit. Every family they touched, every kid they taught, every elderly person they'd connected, every mother they'd encouraged. They could see it all, every life they'd changed. That was their gold now. And it was worth more than all the coins in ancient Rome, more than all the prize money from powerboat racing, more than anything they'd accumulated in any of their previous lives. Because this gold couldn't be lost, couldn't be stolen, couldn't fade away. It lived in the hearts of the people they'd served, and that was forever. Maximus and Marco's story teaches us something profound that Chico Xavier channeled from the spirit Emmanuel. True wealth isn't measured in gold. It's measured in love, charity, and faith. It took them 4 lifetimes to learn that the richest person isn't the one who has the most, but the one who gives the most. What do you think? Do our obsessions follow us into the next life? Have you found the difference between material success and true fulfillment? Let me know in the comments below. If you want more true stories about reincarnation and karma inspired by Allan, Kardec, and Chico Xavier, subscribe and hit that bell. New episodes every Thursday and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.